There's a lot of different opinions out there on the Golden State Warriors right now. They're 4-0 in the preseason, and yes, that means nothing, but a lot of people like what they've seen. Some say they're kind of terrified of the Warriors' future. I'm looking at it from both sides. Clear view and rose-colored glasses on today's Locked On Dubs. Let's go.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, everyone? Thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen of every day. Free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts. You can also check us out on YouTube, and while you're there, give Matt Kolsky a wave. You can hear him on KNBR, formerly Warriors Post, on 95.7 The Game, and has become a mainstay, a stalwart on this program, which is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. My name's Charlie Walter. I was behind the scenes, as Matt Kolsky used to call me back in the day. Television's Charlie Walter, producer Chuck. Producer Chuck, man. That's how we did it. And today and for the rest of the season, and hopefully for the rest of time, we team up to give you Warriors takes from every perspective. On today's show, we're talking about the Golden State Warriors from two different lenses, from worst case scenario and from doom and gloom, and then also putting on the rose-colored glasses and talking about a 4-0 record in the preseason that means absolutely nothing. But we'll look at the good and what we can take away thus far from 4 games. Also, Andrew Wiggins expected to return for the Golden State Warriors next preseason game against the Los Angeles Lakers. Expect to see Draymond Green and Steph Curry as well. Brandon Podziemski, meanwhile, he took one of the schnoz, and he's going to be out with a nose contusion, man. You don't want to see that. Kolsky, good to see you. Let's talk some Warriors. How are we feeling today?
Oh, I'm good. You know, it occurred to me while you were listing off my meager credentials that before 95.7 The Game, Warriors post-game, I was even doing Warriors post-game on KNBR. It's been a lot of Warriors talk in my life, and I'm happy about that, by the way. Don't let my tone of voice fool you. The rose-colored glasses, I feel like when you told me what we were doing tonight, you didn't tell me you had these, and I feel like I would have rummaged through some glasses to try to find a matching pair, but, here we are.
Yeah, Kyle and I moved into a house, and the guy that lived at the place before us left everything, even things we didn't ask for. And this is something that he left. It was on the pool deck, and so every once in a while I throw them on, and today as a prop it worked out well. But let's get right into this thing, man, because there are two different perspectives on just about every topic with Golden State Warriors basketball. And let's start with one of the burning ones right now. It's Jonathan Kuminga. I mean, 95% of people out there, and I don't want to speculate, let's just go with a lot of people out there, have seen Jonathan Kuminga knock down threes, 3 of 5 in the Warriors' 111-93 win over the Pistons. He's shooting it over 50% from 3. He's scoring the basketball. He has not consistently attacked the glass, but he's shown that he's capable of it, and you would imagine that as the season goes along, that's going to be something that improves. His defense, I mean, it depends who you ask. But I love the future of this guy, but then you take off the rose-colored glasses and someone says, but how are we going to pay him? If Andrew Wiggins is a part of this future and we have Draymond Green for years to come, you're paying Steph $50 million, $60 million moving forward. How do you make the room for Jonathan Kuminga in terms of the finances? That's what the rose-colored glasses off. How do you kind of dissect this thing from a whole?
Well, I would have to recheck my familiarity with the newest salary cap rules because I know there's some restrictions with the apron, but
let's put it this way, Kolsky, real quick. Let's put it this way. If Jonathan Kuminga were to sign long-term, even if it wasn't even close to a max, it would kind of tie up the Warriors into their homegrown talent, and Kuminga and Podziemski and Curry, Draymond, Wiggins, those 5 for, the foreseeable future. And then I guess
that's how the league works, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, Warriors fans that have the glasses on say that's a championship contender if Kuminga's as good as we think he could be. Some take him off and they say absolutely not. Kuminga is your second best player is not going to get the job done. We should go fishing in the offseason. That's kind of the predicament that they're in.
Well, except that there's no fishing without bait, and it's not like if you don't sign Kuminga, you can go sign someone on the free agent market. They're handicapped. Like, there's really no choice. They're either going to sign Kuminga or trade him for somebody who costs as much as he will, right? Like, that would be the goal. There's no scenario where they're a contending team and they don't take on this next contract and because they just lose that money, right? I mean, this goes all the way back to D'Angelo Russell, and the reason that they traded for D'Angelo Russell in the Kevin Durant move was to maintain that salary slot, because as much as the cap rules have changed here and there, fundamentally the Warriors, since they started winning, have been in a position where they're more than maxed out in terms of what you can do in free agency. So, they've only ever had like mid-level exceptions and stuff like that. They haven't had cap room per se in a very long time, and there's no way they will as long as Steph and Draymond are on this team, or Wiggins, all the guys that are here. And if you don't have the guys that are here, you're hopefully trading them for someone else who's expensive, right? So, like, it's not a cap concern. It's not really a financial concern to me. It's a player concern. And do you want Jonathan Kuminga in the long term? I would argue that whether you do or not, it probably pays to extend him at some point. I mean, they may not do it now, and I don't think they need to. But even if the hope is to trade him, you're probably going to extend him first, unless he's getting traded in a couple months. So I don't know. I don't see much downside to operating as if he's going to be worth a max extension. We've talked about this. Like, if he's not that good, remember, Franz Wagner just got a max. Okay?
He's already good. That's the thing. I mean, he was good last year, and he's not.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Well, probably not. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, he's not that good this year, right? He's not good enough that you'd want to offer him the max. So, what's the plan?
Hope that someone else doesn't offer him the max, and then just match him once his bird rights are up.
Right, but so then Joe Lacob saves a few $1 million in luxury tax penalties, but like you still have the same team, right? It's not like spending a little less than the max on Kuminga opens up more salary to spend on free agents. Certainly not on a free agent that really matters, If the problem is you need a second star and Kuminga's not it, the Warriors have a much bigger issue, which is how the hell do you get that guy? And I'm not sure there's a clear path to that in the career of Steph Curry. And if there is, that's a whole other conversation about, like, do you want to make a big trade? And if so, who's available?
And the question becomes, do the Warriors have enough surrounding Steph Curry in terms of the right role players to where they could do a 3-for-1 at the deadline and trade contracts like, let's not even throw Kuminga in there. Let's say, Andrew Wiggins has a big-time bounce-back season. He's the sixth man. He's trending towards sixth man of the year, but the Warriors are clearly going to keep Jonathan Kuminga. They foresee a Buddy Hield or Moses Moody sliding into the backup 3 spot to the point, or Anderson or whoever it may be. Anderson's not playing the 3. But you know what I mean, to the point where maybe they don't have needs for Andrew Wiggins, but he's still a very valuable player on a pretty fair contract if he bounces back to a shell of what he was in 21-22. With the way salaries are going nowadays in the NBA, he's pretty cheap. If he's good, he's reasonably cheap. You have him for years. He's 29 years of age. He can be a valuable trade chip, but that would require him coming out and, just silencing the doubters and balling. And then at that point, why are you trading him? Because you do have a need for that defense. You do have a need for his scoring abilities. And like
not
I
positionally, though. If the right trade became available, I think Wiggins is the guy I would most like to trade of the reasonably big salaries. You know, I
But you
wouldn't
get more from Kuminga, right? You would think.
I think it depends a lot on the team and who you're trading for. Is Kuminga's value higher? I don't know. Whoever trades for him is going to have to extend him. So is that decision easier for a third party? I guess maybe, but is he likely to make less than Wiggins? No.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bigger commitment than taking on Andrew Wiggins. Taking on Jonathan Kuminga, if you're going to make a trade that gives up value to bring that guy in, you better be planning on having him for the next 5 to 10 years, right? Whereas with Wiggins, like, he comes in, plays out his contract. It's a mid-level contract by the time it's over, at $26 million or whatever, unbelievably. And hopefully he helps. If you're taking on Kuminga in a trade, the value there is partially potential, so you're making a gamble.
Coming up, rose-colored glasses. Warriors go 18 of 39 from deep. That is good for 46%. They already hit 28 in a game this preseason and shot it over 50% from three. It's hard to lose games when you are this much of a sharp-shooting team. One issue, 18 turnovers and the rose-colored glasses come off. Can the Warriors win a championship, turn it over left and right, and making these careless mistakes? We discuss coming up on Locked On Warriors. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. It's my favorite ticketing app, and there's a lot of reasons why. Let's start off with the fact that you can get a panoramic view from your seat. So instead of just looking at section 214 or 126, you see the actual 360 view of your seat, and you make sure that you're covered on a sunny day, or you're covered if there's rain in the forecast. You can see those things with Game Time. There's no surprises when you get to the arena, to the ballpark, or to your live event. You also get the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And the closer you get to your event, the cheaper the tickets get. Rejoice, procrastinators. This one's for you and for everyone else. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So the rose-colored glasses, and I'm not going to put these on and take them off every single time.
Sure, because it's beautiful. The downside is I cannot take you seriously.
I can't take myself seriously. Absolutely not. But I'm rocking these things after if the Warriors hit 28 more threes in a game this season, I'll be wearing these for the entire show. But for now, they're retired. They're going into the Warriors Hall of Fame. And let's get back to it. 18 of 39 for the Golden State Warriors. That's 46% from three. Buddy Hield knocked down 4 of them. DeAnthony Melton, who's been a pretty good shooter this preseason, only went 1 for 4, but Jonathan Kuminga picked up the slack at 3 for 5. Moses Moody hit 40% of his threes, 2 of 5. Podziemski, 66% from 3, 2 of 3. Now, I don't think Podziemski is this volume shooter that we made him out to be in the offseason. He's a spot shooter. He's going to shoot 4 or 5 a game. He's going to knock down a couple of them, and he's going to hover around 40% like we thought. But he's just going to do it in a different way than we were dissecting this preseason. Lindy Waters knocks down 3 of his own. Now, there's a log jam at that position, so how much will we see of Lindy Waters' shooting abilities? We'll see it some games, definitely load management games, but the shooting is going to be good enough to keep the Warriors in a lot of games this season. You saw it when they turned it over 6 times against the Kings to start the game. The Kings had turned it over 0 times, yet the Warriors still had the lead. That's because the 3 ball is as dangerous as it's been. The Warriors kind of, created the 3 ball somewhat. It was created in the 70s? Is my era right there? 70s, 3 ball was created?
Well, it was the ABA innovation, I believe, and then came to the NBA with that. But the NBA may have adopted it before the merger. I don't know. Yeah, 70s sounds right. Early 70s.
Teams were hitting 28 3-pointers before, 2013, 2014, when the Golden State Warriors really showed that is a winning formula. And now everyone's chucking them up. But in order to win games, you got to protect the basketball. You got to, have more shots and more possessions that are effective than the other team. And careless mistakes do not get it done. I will say, though, when the Warriors won the championship in 21-22, I was having the same discussion with you on the air. It's like deja vu. And we were asking the question, can the Warriors, who are in the bottom half of the league, averaging 15 plus a game, can they win a title? The answer was yes. So I asked you this year, can they win a title if they turn it over 16, 17 times a game, the way the roster is currently constructed?
Seems like a long shot, but it's hard to be too concerned about the turnovers, because you mentioned 2022, but certainly the last three of the four titles were turnover filled. The first one, I can't remember for sure. That team may not have turned it over quite as much. But since Kevin Durant arrived, and that's not his fault at all, because Steph and Draymond have always been the main culprits. And I think it mostly comes from confidence, and they both have a flair for the dramatic. If you only took out the turnovers specifically from Stephen Curry, Wardell Stephen Curry, and Draymond Green that were specifically a result of a pass that, in retrospect, anybody would look at and be like, don't do that. I think they would not be a leading turnover team. Like, it's that bad. Those two guys are the leading culprits.
Well, Spin Zone, they had 18 without them in yesterday's game. So
it's preseason, and without them, the team's not very good. I'm not saying they're the worst ball handlers on the team. I'm saying they're the two guys with the ball in their hands by far the most, and they're bound to have some turnovers, especially Steph, who has so much pressure on him when he is dribbling the ball. But they also are both flagrant, stupid turnover culprits. And I would argue that both of them, in fact, more of their turnovers than not are actually the result of careless silliness and not, tough defense or just a bad play. So I think I said this on last night's show. Like, you can't tell me anything, Mom, if you are doing it. And I just wonder how they'll ever really be able to. How is anyone going to take Steve Kerr seriously when he says value the ball if Steph and Draymond continue to do stuff that doesn't value the ball? Now, the problem becomes usually Steph and Draymond know when to turn it off. And that is how they win championships in the past. But you don't want to create this culture where you're just throwing the ball around carelessly.
It is a fine line, man. Toe the line, or you end up like Hank. Breaking Bad quote. Hope you guys got that one. It's a great line from Walter White. Toe the line, or you'll end up like Hank. Brandon Podziemski, 5 more turnovers in the contest on Sunday against Detroit. Had 6 the prior game. That's now 11. It shocks me that Podziemski can make full court bounce passes, spinning them between defenders' legs, yet, coughs it up as much as he does. I have been a big-time believer in Brandon Podziemski and still think that he is going to be a dynamite player for the Golden State Warriors once he puts all the pieces together. Consistently a plus-minus hero, leading the team in plus-minus a season ago. Maybe not the greatest defender on the team, but what he does is takes those charges and what a charge does is typically it bails you out in transition, right? Where teams are running and they're finishing easy baskets. That's what he does. He steps in there and it's pretty much automatic. I mean, he's never getting called for the blocking foul. Gets assists, gets his rebounds, but with Podziemski turning it over as much as he does and having competition like Melton and Moody, that's the rose-colored glasses. Like, I love the future of Brandon Podziemski, but if you have other options that aren't turning it over as much, like what is his leash this upcoming season? And I'm not saying like he's going to play. Steve Kerr playing him as much as he did in his rookie year with Klay Thompson still on the roster goes to show you that he's playing no matter what. But 30 plus minutes a night, is that going to happen? Because the only reason he didn't play 30 yesterday is he took one to the nose.
I would think it would be tough to find that. I mean, I think you're seeing things you can get from other guys as well, different things than maybe what you get from Podziemski. Podziemski's a heck of an all-around player. He's really smart. Kerr loves him because he does everything right. 11 turnovers in 2 preseason games notwithstanding. But I don't know. He doesn't quite give you the rim attacking upside of Moses Moody or the shooting of Buddy Hield or, the defense of DeAnthony Melton. And actually, Melton, I don't know if we talked enough last night about how he put in some real point guard work.
Oh, yeah.
And the more I watch him play, the more I think he is the most reasonable starter next to Steph, even if he's the first guy out and you're bringing in Podziemski or Moody or whoever, right? Just like somebody who can defend. He's got that 7'3" wingspan, which really makes a difference. Anyway, but back to Podziemski. I don't want to say that he's like overloved by the coaching staff. I just think there are things he doesn't necessarily do any one thing right now at an elite level.
Bang wide open threes. I would say he's elite at that. I mean, he's almost automatic. He's 50% on his wide open threes. That's pretty elite.
Okay, but that's only wide open threes. That's
I
not...
would say that I was gonna go with decision making, but it's kind of hard to say that when you turn it over 11 times in 2 games. But I would say like just IQ and his ability to make extraordinary look ordinary at times is pretty elite. But
I think you may be right about that. I think IQ is probably the thing. What I'm saying is there are different scenarios that will call for different guys. It's just hard for me to imagine that Podziemski finding 35 minutes a night or even 30. But I think there's going to be a lot of guys playing 20 to 25 minutes a night on this team.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And for those of you that have placed some Warriors wagers on FanDuel, you're making some quiche because the Warriors keep on covering. They were -1.5 against the Detroit Pistons. I don't know who set that line, but it was 20-point game by the end of the first quarter, and it was never in doubt. NFL fans, now is the time for you. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook, I may add. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, especially if you're a live bettor, and you want your play-by-play, you want your stats, and you want your sportsbook all in the same place, FanDuel gives it to you. All on the same page where you place your bets, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's on FanDuel.com. You're wearing the rose-colored glasses on DeAnthony Melton, though, because I didn't think he played well at all. I mean, Trace obviously threw down 3 of his lobs to give him 3 of his, 7 assists that Melton had, but 2 of 11 from the floor, turned it over 3 times, wasn't really comfortable with his dribbling throughout the game, and he was really one of the only Warriors on the team that had a plus-minus of minus. He had a -4 along with Kuminga. I don't know how much a plus-minus at the end of the day truly should be valued in this sport. You can give me your opinion on that, but I was really high on Melton. And look, it's one preseason game, but I will say that was probably the least highly I thought of him in the game against Detroit. But hey, you knock down a couple of those threes, you're 5 of 11 instead of 2 for 11, and it's probably a different story.
Yeah, he had his worst shooting night. I'm just not that concerned about, do the shots go in or
because someone else is going to hit him if he's not.
Yeah,
that's
or
how
even
it's going to work.
I'm just saying for anybody in the preseason, like I'm not going to get overly worked up about whether or not the shots go in. I'm going to be more interested in whether they're decent shots. And plus minus, I don't know. In preseason, it doesn't mean a lot to me. in the regular season, it's more interesting. But I just think Melton's ability to both play a little point guard and defend bigger guys, it would put him in the lead for me as the starter. Like, people are sleeping on the fact that the biggest thing, and we haven't really had this for Steph since before Klay got hurt, the biggest thing you lost with Klay was that elite defense at the 2 guard. I mean, yes, they've
Formerly
had good.
elite.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, they lost it in 2019, but that's actually, I think, a bigger shoes to fill than one person needing to do the scoring. Like, if they play well, there's a lot of guys who can put the ball in the basket. The scoring will come. They'll figure out a hierarchy. They want to start a high-level defender next to Steph Curry. I mean, that, I think, is probably why Podziemski ended up getting the nod over Klay at times last year, is they thought he was better than Klay at that point, defensively. He was never a better shooter than Klay. So, I don't know. You're right, not a good shooting night, but 7 assists, if you're going to have 3 turnovers, I'll live with it from a guy who's not a natural point guard. Like, that's effective. 7 assists and working the pick and roll with Trace to get those lobs. Like, those are effective things that work. And Podziemski probably can pull some of that off too, but I like Melton's defense and the fact that he's also potentially capable of playing some point guard. Also, by the way, kind of a surprising athlete. Had one play where he jumped. I don't think he even had the ball. It was like a rebound, but kind of flew over somebody and grabbed the rim. And I was like, oh, he gets right up, doesn't he? So, I don't know. I'm excited about DeAnthony Melton, even if he was 2 for 11 yesterday.
Jalen Duran for the Pistons went 7 of 8 in the game. He had 14 points, 9 rebounds, 3 blocks. I mean, he is just a living example of what can kill the Golden State Warriors this year. And that is someone that's physical, that's a bruiser. We've seen it become an issue over the past. And that's kind of what I think is most needed on the Warriors wish list. The question becomes, like, they have all these assets, but if you're not willing to give any of the assets up, if you think, Moody and you think Kuminga and you think Podziemski, you think all these guys are your guys moving forward, then congrats. You're just a small basketball team and you're going to have to win games that way. They do have Trace Jackson Davis, who plays a little bigger than his size. Heard he grew an inch this offseason. Very rare that a 25-year-old grows an inch, unless you're like Mike TV from the Willy Wonka book where he gets stretched out. But Jackson Davis, man, 6 of 7 for the floor. He had 10 rebounds, 3 offensive, and 12 points of the game, along with 3 block shots. You said that his ceiling was kind of like a Kevon Looney. Have you seen anything this preseason that makes you think otherwise, or just a good game against a bad team in a game that didn't matter?
If I said that, I meant for this season. I think his ceiling is probably, Kevon Looney, if Kevon Looney was an explosive athlete, which he, hasn't been certainly since high school, which is a better player. I think Trace has a reasonably decent ceiling. He's always going to be 6'9", but a lot of guys are 6'9", the question is there anyone out there who's bigger and would be a more effective defensive anchor? And I just don't know. Even if you were willing to give up some of your assets, there's certainly not a star, at 7 feet tall.
Yeah. So what they're the name Tristan Vucevic from?
You mean Nikola?
No, Tristan.
Nikola. What?
No, Tristan Vucevic from the Washington Wizards. 2nd round pick. He's 7 foot, 223, averaged 8 and 4 last season. But then it becomes like, why would the Wizards trade him? What are you trading for Vucevic? And
what good does he really? Why do you think he's better than Trace Jackson Davis?
To be honest with you,
or
Kolsky, I don't know anything about Tristan. You think I'm dialed into Wizards League Pass? I'm just telling you what one of our viewers said. He said, "Watch out for Tristan Vucevic."
Okay, well, with respect to the listener, maybe he's onto something. I don't know Tristan Vucevic because I also have not watched Wizards basketball much.
We'll have to dial in, man. They're a fun team.
But that's not an impact player, right? I mean,
no, and I don't think they need I don't think they need or want a DeAndre Ayton that's going to command the post down low and score on the block. Like, I think they just need a solid defender that gives you a little more size, and not even size, just girth. You need some girth. You need someone that plays big.
I mean, look, Jalen Duren is beasting a lot of people, including some 7-footers. That's what he does. That's sort of his game. I truly don't believe that right now there's a better option than just going with Looney and Jackson Davis. It's no smaller than the team you won the title with 2 years ago, right? Or 3, whatever you want to call that now. 3 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I was an advocate for trying to find a big to add to this team. The time to do it was in the offseason. Now, I can't find you a trade for a big that makes them an obviously better team.
And think about it. In the last 12 months, they haven't even flirted with a big. It was LeBron James. It was Paul George. It was Lowry. I mean, Lowry, yes, he's a big, but not a banger, right? He's a stretch. He could do work
but he
down
plays
low.
defense. He plays defense, and he's 7 feet
I've heard
tall.
a mixed bag on his defense around the rim. I've heard a mixed bag. He's mobile for his size.
He's not Jalen Duren, but he does play defense.
Well, the Warriors need Jalen Duren. How do we get that done? How do we get that done? Pistons, what do you want?
Only one
what do you
Jalen
want,
Duren.
Pistons?
And I think he might be, he's certainly in the top 3 most untradeable Pistons. So, what does that mean? I'm not sure. But the Warriors don't have anything the Pistons would want. I'll tell you that.
Last thing I have for you, because the chat did ask for it yesterday. I'm aware that not everyone that listens or views this show is watching every second of the preseason. And a lot of people asked about Quentin Post. What's his role going to be on this year's team?
No role.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's a 0. I liked his tape at Boston College. I mean, he's still got time to figure it out, but he's definitely a project. He is not someone that was brought in to plug and play. So if you have high expectations for Quentin Post getting some serious minutes for the Golden State Warriors this year, then that would mean the Golden State Warriors literally suck. So
that would not generally be a good thing if Quentin Post
I'm just keeping it honest. Even with the rose-colored glasses on, I could tell you this. Quentin Post is playing 20 minutes a game this year, guys. The Warriors are going to suck. So we appreciate you for tuning into the show today. We got a live post-game show following the Lakers game. That is on. We got tomorrow. 2 Lakers games back-to-back. That is on, depending on when you're listening to this podcast, the 15th, which is also my birthday. Oh, happy birthday, Chuck.
Happy birthday, Chuck. I didn't know this.
Yeah. It's my Trace Jackson Davis year. If you want to send me a cake, I'm in Pacifica. See you guys.
Just put a random name on it, or a number rather.